Welcome, everybody, to the Counter Clipping Show for February 28th, 2022. We are back home as of not too late on Saturday, and I took kind of yesterday as a chillin' day, although I did get some videos queued up for the week. So, what do we got? We got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to talk quite a bit about Winterfest. I got a bunch of pictures. We got a GMT update to talk about. In addition to that came in while I was at Winterfest. We're going to talk about especially I'll talk about everything that happened at Winterfest, but I'll especially talk about the OCS playtests that I helped to participate in. And not to brag, but there's literally 2 copies of Forgotten Battles exist, and one of them is sitting right here. So it's not going to stay here. We're gonna source it out to the local folks who are going to get it further play tested after we play a little bit of Third Winter. So let me, before we get started here, we're drinking Auchentoshan. This is the American, Auchentoshan American Oak No Age Statement bottle at 40%, but it is pretty good. It does need a little bit of water, in my opinion. This is a lowland Scotch. There are not that many lowland distilleries, and Auchentoshan is the only one that I have really seen with any reliability in Ohio. I'll occasionally see Glenkinchie at a bar, but I've never seen it in a liquor store. So we are going to go with Auchentoshan. That's why I picked it up. I did not manage to drink all the Scotch at Winterfest, despite help. Thank you, John Longshore, for the bottle of Glenfiddich 15, which was outstanding. So, and we are currently clipping Third World War. I'm on to markers now. All the units are clipped. I actually did have a couple left that were on the marker sheets. Those are all done. I'm doing the markers. We will be moving on to something else this week. I am tiny bit aggravated that people in lands like Australia and Canada have gotten their shipments from GMT, and yet they have not yet begun to ship to the United States. So we will talk about that with the GMT update. So, in the meantime, let's say hello to some folks. Robert Moffat, John Longshore. If you didn't catch last week's show, we did have some technical things, learned a lot about how not to do that kind of thing, but we do have some techniques that might work better next time we take the show on the road rather than relying on dodgy hotel Wi-Fi. So thanks, John, for coming and hanging out for a while. So Bill Simone, Patrick of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, Christopher Prest. I almost said Christopher Priest. There's at least 2 notable individuals named Christopher Priest. Mike Anthony, Matt Taylor, Wade Moore, Mac Rugby, Strelnikov, Vince Ree Manders, Todd Walser, Dale Brady, Daniel Silverthorne, Wade Moore, Joe Perez, Stigler is in the house, Carl from the Wargame Boot Camp, James Whitmer, Chad Canady, John Clark, Rick Cox, Jacob Guernsey, Vince Ree, Stephen Roberts, Jeff Anderson, Jeff Beeler, Dale Woods, Joe Faust from Northeast Ohio, John Clark, if I didn't get you already, I did get you, Mike Orwick, William Bird, Richard D. Fortuna, Michael Potts, Ken X, or Ken 10, Steel Partridge, Chet Bell, George Ratcliffe, Brent McCabe, Fucko is in the house, Half-Assed Gaming, Joe Okabayashi, Thomas Bandy, Charles Latorra, Jason W., Iggy Cricktal, George, we got you, Brian Gash, Findle 70. So welcome everybody to the show. I actually got all the social media posts out already. What does that noise mean? That noise is usually not good. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. I have reason to think that just about everybody watching is in fact already subscribed. Are we hitting snags here for Pete's sake? I don't see any reason why we would. So if anybody's having problems with buffering or anything like that, please let me know. Speak up. We won't be on the massive delay that we were on last week. I'm not sure what's up with that. So let's move first to the. Let's move. That's irritating. All right, we're having small technical difficulties. I don't know what happened to my... There we go. Okay, cool. Let's talk about the GMT update. This isn't displaying the way it is supposed to, but well, fix it after the stream. That's fine. All right, so this hit, I think, last Tuesday or something like that, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week. I may say something about the thing in Ukraine, but, you know, get your news from reputable sources rather than from randos on the internet like myself. So I encourage people to be hopeful, but I encourage people to also be careful about what news you believe and what news you are amplifying by sharing that on the internet. Apparently Mike Lamb passed away. He was well known to the Down in Flames community, so that is too bad. They're in the middle. GMT's in the middle of the big shipment. We'll talk about that. Condolences to Mike's friends and family. New P500s. So this is Cuius Regio, the 30 Years War. We'll take a look at that well, let's open it up for the moment, actually. So we can take a look at it. Here's the box back to Twilight Struggle Red Sea. There's news about GMT1. Once again, as usual, if you are, you know, desirous of reading the entire thing and getting all the little informations, then go check it out at GMT's website. I'm just hitting the highlights and the shipping schedule. Tabletop Simulator. There are Tabletop Simulator mods for a couple of next war games. Battle Line, Fire in the Lake, and Imperial Struggle. I could see playing the 3 to 5 on Tabletop Simulator. Can't personally see playing Next War on it, but you know, that's just me. Folks seem to like it. That's good for them. P500 editions. Cuius Regio, Commands and Colors Samurai 2nd printing, Conquest of Paradise 3rd printing, Sekigahara 5th printing. So those are your new P500 editions. The only one of which is actually new is Cuius Regio. So hopping over to that. This was on a table at the Spanish convention, BiotaCon, that Stuka Joe broadcast from. It has a map that is very attractive, if possibly a bit hard to read. It is a hex and counter 30 Years War game, which means that it is of interest to me. I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I am very likely to. And designed by Francisco Gradiale. So, very interesting looking thing. We will keep our ears peeled for more information about that. No P500 removals. New P500s on the horizon. Tactical air game from Lee Brimacombe Wood. New expansion for a popular World War II series. That could be friggin' anything. New dual pack. A dual pack. Introducing a new operational combat series. New content for Commands and Colors, which would be a huge shock. Coming events, GMT East, Weekend at the Warehouse. Those are still on, as far as I know, so check that out if you are interested in going to those things. There is a Paths of Glory PBEM tournament, so check that out if you're interested in that. Punched Con, which is in Coventry, UK, in May, for those of you who are in the UK, and I know there's at least a couple of you. There's almost always a monthly update from the Frank Chadwick ETO series. So if you are not tuned in on that particular thread and you're interested, go check that out as well. Let's keep moving ahead here. Is there a GMT Discord server? Am I on the GMT Discord server? I'm not sure. I should probably check. So, inside GMT, here's a bunch of stuff. All right. Current charges and shipments. They are saying that they plan to finish shipping by Friday, March 4th. That is this Friday. I have my doubts. Barbarossa Army Group Center, 2nd edition, Into the Woods, Pacific War, Plains Indian War, Salerno 43, along with this modern app and Vietnam 65 to 75. Next charge will be on Tuesday, March 8th for U.S. Civil War 2nd printing, excellent game, and a 2nd edition upgrade kit. I am pretty sure this upgrade kit is the same as the last upgrade kit, so I didn't order this. But new stuff at sea, Almoravid, no shipping date yet. At the printer includes a bunch of stuff, but other printing of Empire of the Sun, the new game Charioteer, and the new edition of Great Battles of Julius Caesar, the Civil Wars, and Red Storm Baltic Approaches, which I am also on the hook for. So there's like 4 things in here that I am on the hook for. Next up, going to the printer, Musket and Pike Dual Pack. It's about time. Skies Above Britain, Stalingrad 42 expansion, which I think there's some information out now about. And Twilight Struggle Red Sea. So catching up to some stuff on yeah. So apparently it's a thing that GMT sends out their international shipments first, which kind of makes sense. Especially if it's going on a boat. Maybe not as much if it's going to Canada, but I don't know how they're managing that either. So I'm whining a little bit about it, but that is exactly what it is, whining. So, John Longshore, speaking of the Downfall games, I should have some content on that again soon as well. Those guys are doing a lot of work to get exposure for their games, so bear that in mind. I think my stuff should be shipping via UPS, so whenever it ships. Chad Kennedy says, no movement of EFS Army Group north or south. So I don't expect movement this soon, to be honest about it. I expect to hear about it on Consum World before we hear about it from GMT. The word is, on that stuff, is that now that center is done and the new system series rules are done, that north and south should go quite a bit faster. So I hope that's true. Certainly, folks have been waiting a long time. So, they skipped me this month for some reason. I think I had some GMT stuff, but that's fine, whatever. Okay, so let's look at Winterfest. All right, so there's quite a few pictures here, so bear with me. Kent Sherm, thanks for stopping by. Wardrobe, also thanks for stopping by. And Marty Sample. I already have some cheese. I actually stopped at Grandpa's Cheese Barn on the way so that I had some cheese with my wine. So I think this is actually from Friday afternoon when I got to Winterfest and they were still setting Ostfront up. So please, if you don't know what Ostfront is, it's 4 OCS games that all will be combined together. The only one of which that is out is the Third Winter. Please check out the video from earlier in the week. It's pretty fast. It's only like 5 minutes if you want the full breakdown. This is the whole thing. This map is roughly 5 feet by roughly 15 feet. And actually, there's one map panel that's folded under on the east side of the map, and it turns out that, I'm not sure if I got any pictures of this, but you can see it in the video. It turns out they actually needed that extra 8 or so inches of space. So next up is U.S. Civil War, which was on the table in the first weekend, and they wrapped that up and moved on to something else. This is a fantastic game. If you haven't played it, there's video on my channel and a bunch of other places as well. This is a 2-mounted map game, by the way. It's hard to see in the picture. Just doesn't quite show you in a way you could fully appreciate the size and how nice this map is. It is very nice. This is Poland Defiant from Revolution Games. I have this. It's pretty neat. It's kind of tricky, as you can imagine, to make a game out of this campaign, but I think it can be done. And it looks like Revolution Games, and whoever the designer is, whose name I don't recall offhand, has managed it with this particular game. Also on a couple of tables was Der Weltkrieg. So they did have the entire war set up. They started in January of 1915, and they got about into August of 1915. They didn't have all the maps, but they did have all of the fronts going by the end of it. So this is the Western Front, obviously. There's some more pictures of this. Here we'll have a bunch of pictures of this guy as well. If you haven't seen the video of the little die rolling gadget, we'll be featuring that next week on the show if I have anything to say about it, because I got one coming. I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I must have it. So check out that video if you want. This is the Greatest Day Gold Juno and Sword. They had 8 people on this. They got through a good chunk of it. And they had kind of a custom table arrangement here, which makes this whole thing seem really manageable, relatively speaking. It is a huge game, don't get me wrong. Fast Hines, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so here we are in Forgotten Battles. This is the game I was in. This is the standalone center section, Soviet offensive in Belarus. in September 1943 to April or May 1944. We didn't get to May, obviously. We did get to end of November, close to the end of November anyway, so we made pretty good progress as well. We were short a person. We were, due to personal tragedy that I'm not going to go into, somebody couldn't make it, and he was in our game, and it was a mess. So our heart goes out to Marcus in the UK, who was not able to make Winterfest this year. Nevertheless, we had a great time playing Forgotten Battles. I had a great time playing Forgotten Battles. We'll talk a little bit about that after we get through the pictures, and I got the screen share over. Here's another Poland Defiant. Here's a pretty terrible shot of Forgotten Battles. Edge of Forgotten Battles. We had a map split. This is one of several shots from the annual... Jordan McMullen, thanks for stopping by. You better be there on Thursday. So, this is one of several shots from the annual tradition, the double-blind flat-top game, which is just an absolutely great time. Super glad that we do that every year. And, of course, every year we talk about a variety of... enhancements for the next year. Hopefully we'll pull some of those off this year. There's reason to think we might. This is what I am calling Super Kingmaker. It is sort of a super-sized Kingmaker, printed on a tablecloth, as far as I can tell. This did get played. I did not get any pictures of it while it was being played, only when it was set up. Here's Stalingrad 42. This was set up as a side game, small side game like Stalingrad 42. Which didn't get a ton of play because everybody was kept busy by the big stuff. Here is more stuff of Forgotten Battles. This is a shot from the third winter section of Ostfront. You could see there's a large German salient around the Dnieper here. That created problems with it later on. GTS Chad Kennedy, GTS Normandy is 1/3 out. Gold Juno and Sword is out. Utah should be on P500 this year, and Omaha is in development. Here is more stuff from Ostfront. More Ostfront. Here's the northern sector of Ostfront. You can see Leningrad in the upper right corner of this map. Here's Super Kingmaker when they were actually setting it up. Here's this is the Japanese map of Flat Top. So we should talk about this. I'm going to try and corner this designer here. Russ Schultke. This is a game called Stalingrad Death of the City, and it's a 2 or 3 map Stalingrad game. Looks fairly intriguing. I got a lot of bites on pictures when I posted it on Twitter over the week. So I think people are interested in finding out more about this thing. So we'll see if we can get some more information for you. So this is the third of the OCS playtest games that were occurring. This is Cross-Channel Attack. I'm not sure. I think I got some later pictures after they had managed to break out, but this is before that, obviously. Here is Forgotten Battles once again. Here is the Hero City once again. More Hero City. This is the Forgotten Battles sector in Ostfront. Ostfront. This is part of... this is actually kind of the seam between... now it's the northern half of Third Winter, actually. Here's our little salient here. I don't know if I got any pictures of the Soviets cutting that salient off, which did happen. The Germans managed to extract most of their forces. The redo of Streets of Stalingrad, I think there was some drama that went on there. I do not know any details, and if I knew them, I probably wouldn't want to report on them. So here's the fourth piece of the Ostfront puzzle, and actually probably the next one that's going to come out. It's Crimea. Again, check out the video with Chip from earlier in last week. That has all the breakdown on this. This is going to link up to Third Winter. As you can see, it kind of dangles off the bottom, but it also can be played standalone as either the 43-44 scenario or a 41-42 scenario. So it actually, and I've actually played the 41-42 scenario, and it plays pretty well. So Here is the new Korean War from Joe Belkowski and Compass Games. I think they had a NATO marginal victory on this. There were folks, if Ken is listening, hi Ken, playing this most of the week. Here's some more stuff from Der Weltkrieg. This is obviously the Eastern Front. Here's some more from The Greatest Day, more Stalingrad. I don't know if this actually got played, because, Hexy, thanks for stopping by. I don't know if this actually got played more than as much as maybe Russ walked some people through it a little bit, because Russ was gone most of the week. So I don't know what's up with the schedule, but the game looks interesting. Here we have more. As you can see, the Soviets are punching holes. This is kind of the dynamic for our game of Forgotten Battles. Soviets keep punching holes in the German line and start to ooze around guys. Sometimes we cut some guys off. And, you know, then the Germans are kept on the back foot, forced to keep retreating, which is what happened after this photo was taken. This is Empires in Arms. This is, I think, going to be our side game for next year. That should be interesting. Here's more Flat Top. This is the German... this might be the Game Master's board of Flat Top. This is definitely the Game Master's board of Flat Top. And this is the Allied board of Flat Top, which we got to see and take pictures of after the game was over. So... there was an OCS Korea game. I think I did kind of not mention it. Check out the after-action report of the Flat Top game that we did earlier. As I've said, I think before, we kind of run war movies all week. Don't know what this is. This might have been taken during maybe Enemy at the Gates, which was on for a while. Many classics get played over and over again. Here's more Greatest Day. A lot of Greatest Day pictures. Here's another Der Weltkrieg shot from later in the event of the Western Front. As you can see, not a ton has materialized. This is the Eastern Front later in the con. And pretty happy with some of the pictures. And here we got Hero City again. This is Stalingrad 42. Wanted to get some quality pictures of that. Here's our annual game of Starfleet Battles. I get to generally play Starfleet Battles about 3 times a year. Marty, I want to say total attendance. I didn't take any pictures at Twilight Struggle. The total attendance is probably like 28, 30 maybe. So not a big convention. Here's Totaler Krieg. This was a side game as well. They got through a good chunk of this as well. More The Greatest Day. These are, let's go back one. Yeah, so this is Forgotten Battles as well. As you can see, the Soviets continue to push forward. What games had the highest emotions? That was definitely Ostfront. So on Thursday night, after an enormous meat dinner that is also a Winterfest tradition, we got back to the hotel and I busted out Red Flag Over Paris, and I couldn't make heads or tails of it. It's not particularly complicated. I had just hit the fatigue wall by that point and just could not really grok it at that time. Here's more shots of Der Weltkrieg. Some very nice shots of Der Weltkrieg, for that matter. This is the Balkans in Der Weltkrieg. Here's the... I think these are the British. Have cut off some Turks here. And here is the Caucasus front between the Turks and the Russians. And here's the Italian front, where it doesn't look like a whole lot of action happened. Looks like the Italians did make some advances. So that's something. A lot of pictures. So this is the final position of where we left off on Forgotten Battles. With, I think, a small Soviet offensive that I was pretty happy with. We've cut off these... German units right here. These German units are it might look like they're out of supply, but they're not. They can be traced to, and they could just walk out of there, and it was the German turn when we left off. But by that time, it was, 3 or 4 p.m. on Friday. And so I got to talk about the volleyball moms, too. I think I talked about it last week. So maybe I don't have to talk about that again. But I was pretty happy with the little offensive that got put together. I am under no illusions. The Germans probably will be able to extract almost all of these guys, but it once again will keep them on the back foot and retreating rather than entrenching into a position that I will have problems overcoming. Their natural place that they're going to end up is behind the Dnieper, which will be very difficult to dislodge them from. So... and then here is just a slightly bigger shot. As you can see, we are over the Dnieper, so that means that a position that the position that the Germans would like to occupy, which is behind that major river, is not as secure as they would have otherwise liked. Here's another shot of that ending position. This is from Hero City. Hero City. All right, and that is all the pictures. So. Okay, so we're back to this. So let me try and catch up to some of the comments here. So Jeff Beeler says, in any Coral Sea war game, he feels that there's no chance of a landing at Port Moresby. So we, the Japanese, were trying to land at Port Moresby, and that didn't happen. And it doesn't seem to happen very often in these scenarios. Let me put it that way. It was pretty close on points. I mean, we did hit auto victory conditions based on points, but we decided to keep playing, and it was closer than anybody wanted at the end. So let me catch up to the chat, and then I'll try and talk about the playtests, because there were 3 big OCS playtests here. There was Ostfront, the whole thing. There was Forgotten Battles, which is going to be the next piece of Ostfront after Crimea, and then there was Cross-Channel Attack. Now, I talked to people about Cross-Channel Attack, but I didn't play it. Okay, so... Stigler, downtown, Lee Brimacum Wood has said that he would like to revisit the downtown game after he finishes his current projects. And I want to say that I saw that on Consim World somewhere. There was also news in the GMT update about the Russian campaign, the GMT version of the Russian campaign, which I guess is pretty close, but, we kind of have been hearing that for a long time, so... Do not ask me exactly where that is. So, Compass is doing the Jedco version, which is the original version. The GMT version will be, kind of the 5th edition of the game, I think. I think I've landed, because I did have kind of room for a game like Russian Campaign in my library. I think I've landed on just that being Russia Besieged. So... So the Jedco version is way smaller rule set than really any of the other versions of Russian Campaign, whether they are called Russian Campaign or not. Igricktal, I flew the Klingon D7 in this particular scenario. I like the Gorn because they're giant, beefy hammers, but we played the Juggernaut scenario where it's like 4 ships against some giant overpowered ship, and we didn't finish it because it was like 1:30 in the morning by then. Vince Ree, the GMT Russian campaign has been getting strung along for so long that I do not blame you for that sentiment at all. Although, I mean, as William Aarons mentions here, there is an obvious bottleneck in the GMT pipeline in general, and the recent, logistics problems did not help to clear that in any way. So, Chad Kennedy mentions that the Dnieper has embankments on the western side. So it's Chad. It's not represented in the maps. It's represented in the TRC, in the TEC. The Neeper has special rules for it in those games, so you can't just cross it. And it is a combat DRM or attacker halved or something when you cross it. I didn't cross it, so don't ask me what the exact modifiers are. But it's not just you walk across the river and that's it. So Fastine's got his order from GMT as well. So playtest. So Forgotten Battles feels very polished to me. There is some tuning that needs to happen, and there's some tuning that Tony Burkett, the designer, is going. By the way, we did schedule or say we were going to schedule a sit down after everybody got home. It just will work out a lot better. Yeah, Marty, I think that's true. That's pretty much what I've been saying. That it's really not GMT's fault, but GMT is the one with it on their webpage, so they're going to take the flak for it, whether that's justified or not. Bayonet Brent is at Home Depot ordering a new washing machine. Awesome. They're totally competent there, I assure you. There's some minor tweaks that are going to happen to Forgotten Battles, and then, of course, we'll have to play test those tweaks. And then Ostfront, I think, Hero City, I think, has not been independently playtested at all. So we're going to have to get that playtested as well. And then the combined campaign has to be playtested because, how do you handle supply, for example? Can you just ship this? You just make one big roll for everybody? Do you roll for each map set and then you can ship it wherever you want? Are there restrictions on that? A lot of those things are things that need to be decided. Generally speaking, I think in this Ostfront game, I think the Soviets did pretty well. They actually ran the Germans off I didn't catch it in the pictures, but I caught it on the video. They ran the Germans off the back map edge in one place. So that's Jason W. has a great point. That Home Depot probably doesn't pay that person enough for them to be competent. So, all of the damage done to the Juggernaut was done by me. So please, please do thumbs up the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. Please do help support the channel. There's links in the video description to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi. So check all that stuff out. So we do, before we get to more stuff, we do have, let me pull the stream up here. We're doing pretty well, it looks like, but that doesn't seem to be behaving. The Death of Stalin is a great movie. It is historically accurate as well as being hilarious. So I do want to extend special thanks to John Longshore, who came out, gifted me with a bottle of scotch and another game. So thanks to John, thanks to the organizers of Winterfest, thanks to Tony and Chip and Curtis, the OCS development team who came out. Our hearts go out to Marcus, who couldn't make it to the convention. Last, I don't know what MSIDs are, to be honest. I don't play enough SFB to remember that. But it does have a big rotating shield. The only person that actually did internals on the Juggernaut was me, by the way. So, Steve Buscemi is great in that movie, but pretty much everybody's great in that movie, so. So it is a great movie. Was not on display at the convention. Everybody just brought DVDs. So one thing that didn't get shown this year, and maybe making up for 2 years ago when I think we showed it 3 or 4 times, was A Bridge Too Far. Totally unacceptable that we didn't watch A Bridge Too Far. And yeah, let me also extend thanks to Doug from the Tabletop's Edge, who showed up and helped me host the show. I think that went really well. Let's see, miscellaneous markers and stuff. And although I didn't get to play with him, which was too bad, maybe we'll get to fix that at Buckeye Game Fest. So anybody interested in going to Buckeye Game Fest, let me know. We are planning a newbie-friendly OCS game at Buckeye Game Fest. There's also a Labatt game, but that may actually be full already. And I should know more and have more information by next week. So we'll talk more about Buckeye Game Fest next week. I got a whole bunch of discussions that have to happen behind the scenes for that. It actually reminded me a little bit of the Juggernaut scenario in SFB. Actually, did remind me a bit of the Doomsday Machine, but it played a little different. So, Zhukov does it. Who are we talking about? Are we talking about Beria? Well, he was tried in the movie. They read the charges and then shot him in the face. Finding the exact details of documented on that particular event might be difficult. So, Zhukov doesn't shoot him. Zhukov is there. Zhukov is one of the... He's kind of there because it's Jason Isaacs, and you want to use Jason Isaacs if you paid him. But he was not quite as involved in that affair as the movie makes it look. But otherwise, the movie is actually really historically accurate as well. It's just all played for laughs. So... And Jason Isaacs says Zhukov was pretty good, so I'm happy with that. Well, the Juggernaut doesn't have shields either. It has armor, and it's unarmored in the back, but it also has this rotating shield that rotates to face whatever you want. So you kind of have to coordinate your fire, or you have to trigger the response of the shield with things like missiles and plasma torpedoes and stuff like that. The timeline in Death of Stalin is rather compressed. But the whole thing does not take place over just a couple of days. Even in the movie. But timeline compression is something that happens in movies. And except for the Lord of the Ring, the new Lord of the Rings show, I generally don't have a big problem with it. I might in the case of the Rings of Power show. We'll talk about that when we know more. That was Jason Isaacs. He was great. Everybody was great. So, man, there's a lot of markers in this thing. Jesus. So, Brant, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you later. And for those who haven't seen it, or listened to it, I should say, there is a new Armchair Dragoons podcast episode featuring yours truly and Jim Ozarski on the subject of operational Napoleonics. So, we talked about a lot of interesting stuff. Very good discussion that we had on that podcast. So, check that out over at the Armchair Dragoons site. So, okay, so I think we're all rooting for, we're all rooting for Ukraine here, right? And I think I more or less said this. But I'm other than maybe make a couple of funny comments, I'm trying not to amplify information that hasn't been verified. And right now, there's a lot of information floating around that hasn't been verified. So that's why I'm not being super active in that discussion, and that's why I don't really want to talk about it here tonight. So, other than to say what I have already said. So, it looks like we got about 129 right now. Yeah, that's kind of why it's funny. Oh yeah, OSG news. Okay. So, the new OSG game for 2023 is going to be Bonaparte Overruns Piedmont, which is, I think, part 1, War of the First Coalition, part 1. So that is before Napoleon is emperor. This year's new release is Bonaparte and the Quadrilateral, which is War of the First Coalition Part 2, along with, of course, the reprint of Four Lost Battles as well. So those should be coming out, supposedly shipped by end of March. So for those of us who ordered stuff from OSG on the pre-order system, I don't know how they ship. I put my pre-order in pretty late, so I'm probably going to get it pretty late. But on the other hand, nobody's really... now that the Thursday Night Gamers are not regularly doing videos anymore, we can actually talk about storage solutions tonight. I'm not 100% convinced this will all fit, but... I'm not sure how OSG does their stuff, but logically, the logical way to do it would be to ship the oldest, first in, first out, right? So, with that in mind, I'll probably be rather late, but now that the Thursday Night Gamers are not really doing content anymore, I'm really the only person covering that series. So there's that. Okay, so I'll put the link to these in the video description if anybody wants the link to these. But these are the same trays that I linked in my OCS storage solution video. And as near as I can tell, once the counter sheets are dealt with, I can keep 4 of these in this box. Okay. Now, these have 14 compartments, but they're not blow molded, so they don't have a bunch of dead space that's just air between the compartments. So they actually fit quite a lot more counters. Now, they're bigger counters, too, so, bear that in mind when we say that I think I can get all of this in the box using these 4 trays, I think. I may have to do some compression, but we'll see. Arctic Front, if you're going to learn on like one of the situations, the Arctic Front is probably the best one. It's kind of the least complicated, and it's relatively small. So the Four Lost Battles are in the 1813 campaign in Germany, as I recall. So, Richard Ing, thanks for stopping by. And Adam DO21. Yes, I do find that it's difficult to scoop the counters without a rounded bottom, but that's, a regular counter tray is not particularly rounded either. And I did find that when I was rearranging these right before the stream, I did have to use tweezers to get some of them out. But, that happens for counter trays too. So, the standard GMT counter trays. Do I still listen to Molly Hatchet? And how many times has this been asked? I don't know where it is. Somewhere I have that on vinyl, that Molly Hatchet's Flirting with Disaster, that has the Frank Frazetta cover. I got it at a garage sale for like $1, and I don't even own a turntable. I only bought it for the sake of having an album with a Frank Frazetta cover. So, what I've been listening to after switching to Amazon Music was because not having Neil Young available is not an option for me. So I switched to Amazon Music, and from an app standpoint, the app is not really quite as good, but it is a better podcast feeder than Google Podcasts, which kind of sucks. And I've been listening to a lot of Vandergraaf Generator. So, Matt Davidson, thanks for stopping by. Oh, and I should mention that Super Chats are enabled, so feel free to avail yourself of the Super Chats feature to get your stuff highlighted. Jeff Beeler says he's happy with the original 4 Third World War games. So, that's cool. I mean, I don't know that there's really any huge changes made here. So if you have the old ones and you don't see the need for the graphical update, you could skip it. That's not a big deal. I don't think you're being dumb by doing that. I have not seen John Sai from the sunny Philippines this evening, but it is, God knows what o'clock in the sunny Philippines too. So, there may be reasons. Doug Sunset said he saw Molly Hatchet at Aloha Stadium opening for Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult. That would be a cool concert. Also been listening to a fair amount of Dio, which is not really included much of the Black Sabbath Dio, but has included quite a bit of Rainbow. So that's a thing. I wish I could play music on the show, but I can't because I'll get DMCA'd and in trouble. So we won't be doing that. Yeah, that's why John's not here, because it's not sunny today in the Philippines. I would, there are many, many, many bands that I missed the opportunity to see live when they were still around. The one I regret the most is that I never saw Yes in concert. The band right now touring as Yes, I think, is not very convincing as Yes without Chris Squire and without John Anderson. I'm just not inclined. Not that they're not technically proficient, they certainly are, but they're, it's just not the same. So we have a tradition of going to a steakhouse on Thursday night for Winterfest, and I got the 1 pound prime rib. So after eating a pound of beef and a dessert and a baked potato, that was what finally pushed me over the wall. So normally the hotel, I'll talk a little bit about that. It's a Best Western, right? It's nothing fancy, but normally it has a very serviceable hotel hot breakfast. That wasn't the case this year. COVID has screwed that up for everybody as well. John Longshore saw the Rolling Stones. That's pretty awesome. Matt Davidson, I can tell you that there are still some people who are just still getting theirs. So you may not actually have been left out. Let me put it that way. Now, I have seen Rush, which was, I think, on the Roll the Bones tour. They were really good. I was like, oh, I didn't want to go at the week before, and I got talked into it, and it was fantastic. So, no, it's the Angry Bull is the name of the steakhouse. It's not actually in Sandusky. It's just near there. So, yeah, let's talk about that. So it sounds like Compass has made some kind of arrangement to republish some additional old GDW games, which all appear to have come out of the Frank Chadwick stable. So we're clear what that means. What is explicitly not included is the sci-fi stuff, all of which resides with Mark Miller, and the Europa series, which we would all love to see Compass, publish, because Compass would publish it. On the other hand, I think Europa is a kind of a lost cause at this point to some extent. Charles Latore listening to Japanese rock and metal. So I don't know much about Japanese rock and metal. However, as of a few years ago, I became acquainted with Acid Mother's Temple. You may have heard me mention a band, and I wore the T-shirt at Winterfest, both the T-shirts. You may have heard me mention a band called Amandul 2. They're a early krautrock band that got started in the late 60s. They formed out of a commune in what was then West Germany, and they did an album or two as Amandul, now called Amandul 1, and then that was basically everybody in the commune, and most of whom were just banging on stuff. It's kind of cool to listen to, but it's a very trippy type of very psychedelic experience. And then Amandul 2 is basically all the people in the commune who were like actual musicians got together and formed a band. And that was Amandul 2, which had a rather long life. Never got a lot of exposure in the United States. But for some reason, happily, you can get Amandul 2 stuff all over the various streaming services. Now, they kind of evolved into electronic sound and stuff later on, but those super early albums are really psychedelic and really trippy and I think really cool. And I'm happy to say that a lot of Acid Mother's Temple sounds like lost Amandul 2 albums from before 1973. And I think that's really awesome. So if you're into Amandul 2, which is super duper unlikely, I highly recommend it. And the albums tend to be pretty cheap on Amazon too. The Rick Wakeman Journey to the Center of the Earth. I listened to the album. That would have been pretty cool to see. Krusty Captain has received his Yanks reprint. Yeah, okay. That's after. I was confused there for a second. So Jethro, John Longshore, Jethro Tull's on tour again, I think, or they did an album. I'm not sure. I have also seen Jethro Tull in concert. Bob Kowalczyk. So we're not going to see some Third World War playthrough tonight. Let me put it that way. We will get back to this, though. I have no doubt that we will eventually get back to this. Grateful Dead I never got to see. That was probably a mistake on my part, too, but I'm not really into weed, so, that was a factor. But I kind of like the Grateful Dead just for the music, so I, a bit missed out. So, and I'm sure it would have been a fascinating show to go to, if you know what I'm saying. So, John Longshore is making fun of all of us old people listening to 1980s stuff. Hey, I'm not listening to 1980s stuff. I'm listening to 1970s stuff, I'll have you know. I have a pretty eclectic taste in music. I mean, everybody says that, right? Admittedly, I don't really like country. There's a couple of country songs I like. I don't really like rap. There's a couple of rap songs that I like. It especially helps that summer we'll say hip-hop, I'm not sure what the lingo is nowadays, evolved along the line, evolved out of disco. Let me put it that way. Was heavily influenced by disco. And I love disco. So, is it cheesy? Yes, it is. But I am comfortable with that. So, King Crimson is also pretty trippy. Depending on what era Crimson you're talking about, it can be between tricky and very tricky. I really like the first 5 or 6 Crimson albums, though. And I like their later jazzy stuff less. And I may be in a minority there. Oh, Mark McNair saw Yes on the Union tour. That would have been a cool tour to go on. I think everybody agreed that the album was kind of crap, but the tour was great. So, Fela Hunginjeet. Awesome. Fantastic. I do like Johnny Cash, too. And actually, a lot of the old country, like Hank Williams Sr. and the Carter family, did some pretty cool stuff. I have a fondness for a lot of one-hit wonders, too. So there's that. I do not, in fact, own a bedazzled disco suit. However, at some point in my advanced age, that would be hilarious. Mongolian heavy metal. I have actually heard of that is a thing. Haven't really given it a listen. Nor Korean stuff either. So Peter Berg says he saw Rush at the King Eddie Bar in Edmonton. That's pretty fantastic. I don't really do. If I'm listening to music to work on stuff, it'll generally be some kind of prog. I find that relatively undistracting. And I've gone with Amandul, either Amandul really, or Ashra Temple, or sometimes we'll go with Osric Tentacles, which I just kind of figured out Osric Tentacles is really jazz. So there's that. I don't like country music enough to explore further country. I like a small selection of those songs. Rammstein. Ramstein is how I think that's how that's actually pronounced. I think. Adrian Ballou, yeah, no kidding. Another veteran of Crimson. Christopher Prest, very lucky to see Yes at Massey Hall in Toronto. Yeah, that would be cool. I have seen Neil Young, I think 7 times, including a couple shows at really small venues, too. Fast Hines, thanks for stopping by. I'm hearing good things about that documentary. Oh, well, no, I just haven't mentioned The Crazy World of Arthur Brown. Or Arthur Brown's Kingdom Come, which is also pretty cool. I'm not a big fan of Lucky Man. I think Emerson, Lake and Palmer definitely hit their creative peak with Brain Salad Surgery, and Lucky Man is just an okay song that I think gets a lot of radio play because it's comprehensible. A lot of ELP is not accessible to non-prog people. So I spent years trying to track down that album by The Crazy World of Arthur Brown, and finally got it, and then everybody went digital. So now we just use digital. John Longshore, that's probably the kinky version. Depeche Mode, wow, okay. There's a couple of Depeche Mode songs I do like, but I never really explored Depeche Mode, or Oingo Boingo for that matter. Steve Hackett, yeah, so yeah, you talk to Dan if you want to talk to Steve Hackett. So Dan knows him. He did back in the day when Dan was getting random people in the wargaming sphere to do intros to his videos. One day, oh, this is Steve Hackett. Welcome to No Enemies Here, the Wargaming News. And I'm like, what the fuck? Dan, what the hell's going on here? So that's something. Old Genesis is really good, though. The Peter Gabriel Genesis is really good. I'm a much bigger fan of Selling England by the Pound than I am of The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. But Norwegian black metal. I don't know about Norwegian black metal, but I do like Heidevolk, which is Dutch. They're a Dutch band. And there's another one that I think is Scandinavian that I kind of like some of their stuff too, and I can't remember who that was. I did make a heavy playlist as well. So, alright, let's start putting guys away here. Supper's ready. Yeah. I didn't want to make the whole show about music, so moving right along. I picked up a couple of things at Winterfest. It is not a Selly convention. So just so we're clear on this, by the way, I'm glad that everybody that made it out this year. It was great to see everybody. But, do talk to somebody before heading out to Winterfest. Just because space is a potential worry. It was not a problem this year, but it is a potential worry down the line because we actually don't wish to outgrow the hotel. So just kind of, if you're going to stop in and just hang out, that's not a problem. If you're going to get into a game, kind of make sure you got a spot open for you before committing to go. And, if you need to talk to somebody about whether there's stuff or not, talk to me. I'm willing to fill that role. That is how some people got to come to Winterfest this year. So, what did I pick up? So, John Longshore was kind enough to give me a copy of Balkan Fury, which is over here because I'm trying to figure out how to store it. So we're gonna do something with that later. One thing I picked up from a miscellaneous person selling it is this 1813 Napoleon's Nemesis. This is by Europa Simulazione, the finest name in wargaming. I don't know how their games are. They might be great, but their name is awesome. So that's a thing. It looks pretty neat. And I am looking forward to exploring it a bit. It looks like a card-driven game, but it is a hex encounter. I'm going to screw this up. It's a hex encounter map, and it's operational Napoleonics, and I think there's a space there that there is not a lot competing with it, right? There's the Kevin Zucker Campaigns of Napoleon series, but a lot of that's out of print, and some of that's been out of print for a really, really long time. Another thing I picked up for a startlingly good price is Steel Wolves from Compass. This is basically Germany's submarine campaign, 39 to 45. It's the entire Battle of the Atlantic. And it's, I think, a solitaire game. So John Longshore picked up the 1812 game. Yeah, I guess you can link the two. That's okay. I bought it out of curiosity. It was inexpensive, so I'll see what it looks like. So those are my two pickups. I did pick a couple other things up for local buddies. So I did have stuff to sell as well. Not that much, but I did sell a few things. The logistics of doing a sale on the channel, become complicated for reasons that I'm not going to talk about on the channel. And if you knew the reasons, you would understand why. I think we're going to have to just split this. Pretty much. So, I mean, the table space is limited, right? There's only a certain amount of table space available, and because of that, people. I'm not sure how it's going to work in the future. There's talk of doing a registration system, so we'll see how it works. But in previous years, you pretty much coordinate it with the people who are already going, and then you show up and play. Pretty much is how it has historically worked. But we'll see if it continues to work that way. Because like I said, space has become a bit of a concern, to the extent that, we don't want to outgrow the site particularly, because we love this site. And I love this site because I'm cheap, and it's a cheap hotel. It is far cheaper than any of the full week wargaming conventions. Let's see here. Let's look for that. I think I'm a little bit of running out space. Yeah, so that's kind of the problem, John Longshore. That's kind of the exact problem. And I don't want to deal with that. So Bob Kowalczyk, some games do have grotesque stacks. That's just kind of the kind of games that tend to get played. Der Weltkrieg didn't have any really obscene stacks, but the stacking limit's actually kind of high in that game. I think you can stack up to 6 divisions in a hex. But where are we here? Let's see. So you can, in principle, have high stacks, but in fact, I didn't really see any high stacks. So, oh, these are the. I don't know what these X's are offhand. It's been a while since I've played this. So I may have to do some compactification to make this work. Compass was a good time. Now, so bear in mind that you might see really big stacks in OCS games, but generally speaking, those really big stacks are behind the line, and they are stacks not of units, but of supply and maybe airplanes. That's where you see the really big stacks in OCS. You don't see the entire line or triple line of units that are all eight stacks high. So Stigler says operationally these front games feature unbroken stacks of 4 to 6 from one end of the front to the other. That's not true. Most of the stacks in even in Ostfront, where it really is the whole front, we're generally speaking 3 counters or less. It can get to be more of that when you start talking about divisions that might have a step loss marker under them, but generally speaking, so in our Forgotten Battles campaign, except in that area where I was, there's reasons, in OCS specifically, there are reasons to not stack to the ceiling. you will get annihilated by barrages. There is a Steel Wolves expansion. It's I forget what it's called, but I didn't care too much. So I got the main game. You know, if I play that, then maybe I'll run the expansion down at some point. Yeah, I got a good price on Steel Wolves, so I'm really happy with that. I had most of my games in the storage unit as well at one point, and I'm fortunately the war games are all out of the storage unit. Fleet boats, yeah, the Steel Wolves expansion is fleet boats. Nordic Maelstrom, first of all, welcome to the stream. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Ever buy a game and then find out the game doesn't do it for you as a player? Yes, that totally happens. Red Parachutes actually looks a bit neat. But you know, sometimes for whatever reason, and that reason doesn't have to be that the game sucks, right? Sometimes you just find out that you just don't like it. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with not liking stuff. So by all means, dump it. Iggy Cricktal, if we're still talking about Winterfest, no, there has historically not been a printed schedule. You just kind of have to know. In addition to that, there's a forum that a lot of this stuff gets discussed on, and it's hard to get into the forum because there's, you know, 2 or 3 people join a year that are legitimate people that want to go to Winterfest, and he gets a couple of hundred spam bots a day because they haven't set up CAPTCHA on it yet. So that's going to be worked on too. But like for Console World Expo, there's like a kind of a working list on the CSW webpage that you can contact people and work your game out. I mean, I would recommend it as a general thing, and for a monster game convention, you know what you're going to play before you get there. So yeah, do that for Console World too. Well, Half-Ass Gaming, this is not, so we're clear, this is not the Red Army. You know what? There's reasons to think that maybe the Cold War era Red Army wouldn't have been as effective as it was said to be on paper either. But what we're dealing with now is not the Red Army. Also, I caution folks against taking anybody's propaganda at face value. Right? Wait till information gets confirmed. But it does. I think it is safe to say at this point that the Russians went in expecting to kind of just drive in and take over, and that has not occurred. They have absolutely miscalculated. Peter Burke says he has 2 20-foot shipping containers for books and games and models. We could turn them into tiny houses too. GMT East is not a monster game convention. But that's not to say that nothing big gets played there. You just only get about 3 days to play it, 3 or 4 days to play it. So, when I say monster convention, I mean, and this isn't common parlance necessarily, but I mean that you get a whole week to play, right? And there's only 4, as far as I'm aware, with the exception of some single game events. There's at least one WIF event. There's some ASL events that are week long as well. But there's only 4 general wargaming events that are a whole week. Those are Winterfest, Console World Expo, WBC, and Buckeye Game Fest. And interestingly, 2 of those are 3 hours or less from Columbus, Ohio. So I'm happy about that. Sorry, 3 of those are 3 hours or less from Columbus, Ohio. ID Jester, thanks for stopping by. So that's some of those. hypothetical games, this goes all the way back to the 80s, right? These hypothetical games are based on, in many cases, assumptions, best guesses about what the capabilities are. And of course, generally speaking, if they're a commercial game, the people designing the commercial game do not have access to classified military information about enemy capabilities. So it's guesswork, right? It's hypothetical stuff. So this is why I don't think it's people are asking, hey, how would you design war games about this Ukraine situation? And my answer to that was, I don't think we have enough data. I mean, we made a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of assumptions that we could use that we made last week to last year to last decade about, how effective the Russian military was going to be. On all that turns out to be bullshit, right? I think we don't have enough information. I think a lot of the information we have is unconfirmed information. And unless you are going to be satisfied with designing based on guesswork, then I think it's going to take probably a couple of years after this whole thing is done to really get good analysis of it to determine what the real factors were in why what happened, whatever that turns out to be. Nordic Maelstrom says he wants a good game for World War II that's just one map that is ideally a footprint of 44 by 24. So 34 by 23 is a more traditional footprint. I recommend, and I hate when people do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Recommending the Roads to Moscow, Roads to Leningrad games from GMT designer Vance von Voorhees. They're both out of print at this point. They go for a little bit of money, but not a crazy amount of money. They are very good, and they're all one map. Ken X says that all Ancients games are based on guesswork. No, that's not true, but we're forced to rely on sources like Herodotus and Livy, who aren't necessarily reliable for stuff like that. Ray Musselman asks about the ASL version 2.0 rules right now. So, if somebody's coming to me and saying, I need an ASL rulebook, how do I get it? I'm going to direct them to Wargame Vault and tell them to buy the electronic version. It's cheaper, it's continuously updated, and you can search it. So, buy the electronic version. That's my recommendation. Otherwise, you can get the either, I don't know if the binder is in print right now, but the pocket rulebook is in print. Jason W. correctly points out that Dinosaur Table Battles is based on the very detailed historical record. I think the, Matt Taylor, I feel you there, too. I think the, I think the binder version of the ASL rulebook is not available right now. I'm willing to be corrected on that. But the Pocket version is available, and Pocket Chapter H, and the Pocket Charts, and I'm told the Pocket Charts are nice. I got a video queued up for that I really got to get to watching. Binder, Fucko confirms that the binder is sold out again. So, money left on the table. So another thing that showed up, and I kind of have it off camera, is the One Ring 2nd edition. This showed up while I was at Winterfest. This was the package that was misdirected by the fulfillment people. Fun Again Logistics. I don't know if they're connected to Fun Again Games or not, but they screwed it up. So, but it did eventually, thanks to the post office and me making phone calls, it did show up. So, and they did in fact have the wrong address on it, and that's the problem. Yeah, I'd go with the, okay, so I'd go with the electronic version. And I agree with Iggy Krichtal, who says that the rat charts are better than the MMP pocket charts. But I don't know if you can still get the rat charts, which was the third-party ASL charts. I mean, lots of stuff's really well documented. But Doug's got a point when he says that there is some degree of guesswork and some degree of designer interpretation present in just about every war game. That's basically true. I mean, this is why we value the designers, right? Else you could have a robot design it. Yeah, we're going to have problems with the markers. I think that's what we're going to get stuck on here. And there's not really going to be room in this box for me to put stuff in baggies. And I also don't want to be clipping this game next week, because that'll mean 4 weeks in a row of clipping Third World War. It is, I mean, it is huge, so there's that. Christopher Prest asks, how less complex is... I get the sense. So he's asking, compare complexity between, say, your average OCS East Front game and Stalingrad 42. Stalingrad 42 is about an order of magnitude simpler. OCS is not as complicated as people think, but making all the moving pieces work in a, effective way is hard. And so, while the rules themselves are not that well, they are a bit fussy, but also... Oh, William Aarons, thank you so much. So, the rules complexity is not that high, but you've got, like, the game mastery angle, too, to pursue, and that is very complicated in OCS. Stalingrad 42 is simpler across the board. In fact, I have often described Stalingrad 42 specifically as Case Blue, but smaller and faster. I mean, it's still a pretty big game. William Aarons asked about Jean-Michel Grosjean. I haven't... So he's not eligible for Channel of the Week because he's way bigger than me. But he did have a really good playthrough of Nevsky, which I did watch. So, and actually that's one of the reasons why I invested in, or pre-ordered a bunch of other Levian campaign games. Actually, that was a contributing factor. So yeah, I am aware of him. And anybody that wants to check that out, go ahead and check that out. His channel doesn't do that many war games, but it is nevertheless a good channel that is worth your time. And he does do some stuff that's in the wargaming space as well. Jason W. says, for ancient battles, he likes to play the same battle with 2, 3, or 4 different game systems to examine a range of what might have been. That is an interesting idea. I actually have done that with American Civil War. The problem... So, I feel like my Ancients needs are pretty much entirely met by Great Battles of History. Let me put it... Tactical Ancients needs, anyway. So, I'm happy with that. But, each designer is going to bring a certain outlook to the game, right? And with that in mind, each game is going to say something a little bit different. And if you're particularly interested in a specific battle, then I think you can get something out of playing it in multiple systems. In fact, that's something we'll probably talk about tomorrow with Dan. Stream is on this channel, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and the topic is Gettysburg, of which obviously there is an absolute shit ton of titles about Gettysburg. So, Steel Panthers, are we talking about the video game? Because I didn't think it was particularly similar to ASL. I did play it back in the day. I don't believe it left quite that big an impression, but I know that people liked it, so... Ye Old Geezer Gamer, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, so we're clear. Jean-Michel Grosjean, and he's also funny, so there's that. His Nevsky videos are really good, and I presume all his videos are really good. I just watch the Nevsky stuff. So, all right, how are we doing this? Yeah, we are way. Not going to have enough space for all these markers, and I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with that. I think I may have to deal with it in baggies, actually. I find it difficult. So there's a lot of really interesting and sometimes very well regarded things from Matrix games or AGOD or the other folks, and the I find it difficult to get into it for graphical reasons too. That's even true of the John Tiller stuff. Graphics and UI are really primitive in those games, and I think it's a huge turnoff. UI especially, even more so than the graphics. But John Stanley, thanks for stopping by. But part of that datedness is the tools, the UI tools that were available at the time is part of what makes the graphics not that good, right? So, Steel Panthers World at War, I haven't seen that. I could tell you that Strategic Command, well, let me put it this way. Strategic Command World at War, which is a different thing, I have a quite low opinion of, actually. So the problem with the Ancient World is there's, how many games, I could probably find 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different game systems on that deal with Kenai, for example, or Gargamella. I'm quite sure of that. But if you then start looking at, okay, well, I want a game about the Begratis Plains or something like that, then you might have trouble rustling that many games on that particular battle up. Nordic Maelstrom, if you can get Roads to Moscow, yeah, get that. If you can't find it through them, check with Enterprise Games, enterprisegames.com, and Noble Knight. I didn't think those were available, but I will be delighted to be wrong. One of these days, I want to get Nevsky to the table as well. So it's a thing. It's another one of those things that I want to get to. I have not picked up War in the East 2 yet. I don't feel like I'm under huge pressure to do so. I'm willing to buy it when it's out on Steam for 50% off. I am thinking, I actually kind of wanted to play a light computer game to decompress yesterday, and I ended up playing a little bit of Lost Ark, which is kind of like a Diablo game and kind of like an MMO, and it's a little less. I mean, to the point I got in it, it's pretty low mental effort, but it was. I think I'm probably not going to play it a lot more. Let me put it that way. Oh dear. So I think we've got 3 big games lined up for Buckeye Game Fest. Like I said, I'll be talking more about this next week. Oh, Vince Reese says he managed to grab Roads to Leningrad and Roads to Moscow punched for 80 combined. That's a good price. Those are really good games. I really wanted to see a new edition of Roads to Leningrad. I'm very disappointed that we're not going to get it from GMT. I hope that lands somewhere else. Frankly, I would buy 5 more games in that series. I'd be happy to do that. DCS being the flight simulator, that thing is a crazy money pit. I decided not to buy Elden Ring, which is kind of marketed as the next Skyrim, except it's nothing like Skyrim. Skyrim was fun. This is a Dark Souls game, which sounds not fun to me. So, I'm good. I'll go play Skyrim again if I need to experience that. It does look neat. I mean, it looks great. I don't have the space to do VR right now. The problem with VR is to do it right, you need a space for it. I don't have the space. So, that's my problem. And I'd have to relocate the computer, which that ain't happening either. I did do a video about Roads to Moscow. I was going to do a playthrough series, and it didn't happen for just organizational reasons. I just did not have the push to get that done at the time. Playthrough content is really difficult to do. Nordic Maelstrom says Dark Souls and fun do not go together. Yes, that's exactly my point. It sounds shockingly unfun, and I'm good. ID Jester, yeah. So this is the Library of Napoleonic Battles series. I don't have all of them, but the only one that I don't have is, well, the only two that I don't have are the one that's about to come out and the one that's about to get reprinted. I do like the series a lot. It is a very nice solution. Carl from the Wargame Bootcamp talking about VR. Yeah, so if you're playing something like Elite Dangerous, you absolutely could just do it from your chair. That totally works. My other problem with VR is I wear glasses, and they're big glasses, and I can't take them off to do VR. So I have to wear contact lenses while doing VR, and that makes the whole thing a pain in the ass. So I am aware that you can get a headset extension so that you can fit your VR. You could fit your VR headset over your glasses, but and my glasses are huge. I mean that's part of the problem. So for the right game, it really is neat. I did a little bit of Skyrim in VR. I think I've lasted about 40 minutes before it made me queasy. I did the actual moving with the sticks. I think that was a mistake. I think you move with the teleport mechanic instead. Gen Chaos 33 mentions Attack at Dawn, North Africa. I think I've looked at that. Yeah, I think I've looked at that. And actually somebody whose opinion I respect mentioned that. That may be something that's worthwhile. Yeah, that is not my Traveler collection, Nordic Maelstrom. That is not even all of the Mongoose Traveler 2nd edition stuff I have. Once I get this mess cleaned up, I will be able to... I could fill one of these bookcases with Traveler stuff. Let me put it that way. So I don't think I'm going to do that for, my filming area, this area. But, we'll have some Traveler represented back there. Vince Ree mentions the prescription lens inserts. Yeah, that's a thing that you can get to. And Beat Saber is actually really cool. I gotta admit. There's a lot of cool stuff. ID Jester, this is Operational Studies Group. If you go to NapoleonGames.com, I think it's .com. That's them. A lot of them are still in print, but some of them are out of print. They are inheritors of the tradition of Napoleon's Last Battles from SPI. Their series is called the Library of Napoleonic Battles, and it is basically Napoleon's Last Battles from the designer of Napoleon's Last Battles, with an additional layer of chrome on top. Not a heavy additional layer of chrome, but some additional chrome. And I think they're highly playable. I think they're a lot of fun. Jeff Beeler, I have no opinion on any of that stuff. Outstanding, Nordic Maelstrom. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's irritating. So this is the last success. It's the one that I wasn't able to get the new box for. That irritates my OCD as well, to be fair. They are, in fact, it depends, Iggy Cricktal, that depends on what scenario you play. They're kind of grand tactical, so if you play the campaigns in games where all the campaign takes place on one huge extended map, then they do end up taking on an operational tenor. But If you just play the individual scenarios, then they're tactical. So that may not be a super duper satisfying answer, but it's the answer that I have. Powerhouse by the Raymond Scott Quartet. I think I checked that out, actually. Well, I'll have a video on Bonaparte and the Quadrilateral when it comes out, and actually Four Lost Battles as well. The new set will bring Four Lost Battles up to the current graphical standard, which will be nice. Bayonet Brent has returned. Iggy Krichtal, the units are brigades. Generally speaking, some of the units might be divisions. Some of the units might be divisions, but mostly it's brigades. Jeff Beeler, favorite GDW science fiction war games. Okay, so assuming we're not talking about Traveller, assuming we're talking about the board games and war games, I think the obviously best one is Imperium. It plays really well. I think it holds up extraordinarily well nowadays. I have a fondness for Belter, but I think if somebody was going to redo Belter, then they would have to do exactly that. They would really kind of have to go back in and rebuild it, because it's kind of busted. There's a bunch of them. Triplanetary is one that was a favorite of Steve Jackson's, and he has finally done his version of it. So if you're into that, it's an interesting vector movement mechanic. Let me put it that way. They also did Double Star, which I didn't think was particularly interesting. They did Blood Tree Rebellion, which is one that I don't have. They also did Dark Nebula, which is basically Imperium, but on a geomorphic map, so that you could kind of have a different map every time. The Invasion Earth is a planetary invasion game. That's an interesting game. They also did a bunch that link into Traveller in various ways. Fifth Frontier War is one that I think is really cool because you can kind of run a RPG campaign based on what happens in the game. But as like a standalone war game, it's not very good. So Stigler, brigades can be operational, but it really kind of depends on the topic. And the choice of scale of the game is another factor. I'm not sure I can explain it without showing one of the games. But it is a grand tactical game. Let me put it that way. It does sit a bit in the not that gray area between tactical and operational. So I think at its scale, it can actually go either way. Now, if you want to go super finely grained tactical, then you're looking at Labatt, battalion scale, but then, you got to deal with Labatt, and there's a whole bunch of additional stuff to deal with. Nordic Maelstrom. Yeah, I didn't think it was available, but check out Enterprise Games or Noble Knight, and I think you'll probably be able to get your hands on one. Now, on the other hand, for operational Napoleonics, I think some of the really, it's a bit abstract, but War and Peace is kind of core level, and I think that's an operational if you're playing the scenarios. Callendale did a video on Fifth Frontier War. He hated it, so bear that in mind. And I don't think he's wrong. I think it's a game that's interesting, but not necessarily fun. So. He's actually doing Labatt right now, too. So check that out if you're interested in Labatt. I think he's doing Leipzig. Brent, I have already mentioned on the Operational Napoleonics podcast. Yeah, so GMT, it's a little bit hard to tell unless you remember that if you don't see the add to order button, then it's out of print on GMT's website. It's clear to me, but that's because I've been looking at their website forever. So. Somebody's doing, isn't the Grognard Simulations doing platoon level Napoleonics, which seems absolutely batshit to me. Okay, so Ken X says it's Viva l'Empereur rules, even though it's called La Bataille de Leipzig. I'm not sure I realized that. See, you got to be here the whole time. You don't have to sit here and comment the whole time. You can have an earbud in, you know? It's all good. So, I don't have a topic for next week yet, but the topic for tomorrow's stream with Dan is Gettysburg. So, and then what did he change? Kyle Seeley, whose channel changed names recently, did a Gettysburg Maps video just in the last couple of days, unrelated to our effort, but we're probably going to talk about other things other than maps. Chim812, first of all, welcome to the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I did not order Yanks because I have the last one, and there is no difference between this printing of Yanks and the last printing of Yanks, as far as I know. I'll be disappointed if there is. Jeff Anderson, yeah, that's a good point. There are games about pieces of battles that you can say, hey, you know, it's Little Round Top, for example. You could have a game on Little Round Top that's a company level or even platoon level battle. Doing the whole battle at company or platoon level is kind of crazy. But the same thing applies to Hougoumont. You can totally do a company level game on that little tiny part of the Waterloo battlefield. Brant, we've already talked about my position on the war games on the Ukraine conflict as well. We do not have enough information to put together anything remotely rooted in reality right now. Jeff Beeler says, Dragon Magazine did a Napoleonic role-playing game set in Spain in the guerrilla war. I would be very curious to know what issue that was. We might get to Drugs and Hookers, but we are starting with Gettysburg. I'm pretty much recovered at this point. I spent a lot of yesterday sleeping, to be honest. So, it's possible. We've actually stayed on topic for the most part for the last couple of shows. There's at least, I'm pretty sure there's an S&T game on Hougoumont as well, which may have been company or platoon level. Oh, look at that. Kilroy mentions, first of all, welcome back to the stream. Decision just did Hougoumont in the Mini Folio Bayonet and Saber system. That is one of the systems that... so some of those Mini or Folio systems I don't like. Some of them I do. Just so you know, Brant, I have now got fingers in looking for Flight of the Eagle. So thanks to you and Jim, because I think I need that. I may never play it, but I think I need that. Drew Detterer mentions that OSG did 20th Main, which was reprinted as Little Round Top. Yeah, that's true. 20th Main was the OSG version. Went over to Avalon Hill, turned into their mini game Little Round Top. The thing that tempts me the most from Grognard Simulations is their Normandy thing. Because I'm really into Normandy as a topic. And I think if you limit yourself to the first week or so of the campaign, then I think you could make a game out of it. So... Jeff Beeler says that Mitch Land said that the scale in the Next War series means Next War Ukraine would need huge maps compared to the other games. Well, so what? There's plenty of big... GMT does plenty of big games. What's the scale in Next War Poland, though? I mean, it's here. I just downstairs, and I'm not digging it out. So, so it's, you know, I don't know. Isn't the scale somewhat flexible? I think it is. one of these days I do have to visit the Gettysburg battlefield. Obviously, that is a thing that is on the to-do list at some point. Jeff Beeler says Command Magazine did Ugamon. I think that's the one that was mentioned as XTR, yeah. H-Tuna, Flight of the Eagle is kind of a Kriegspiel engine for Napoleonics from Pratt's and Editions. It's not exactly a board game. It is a moderated game. I'm not sure I can compare it to anything that I have in my library, with the possible exception, as ridiculous as this sounds, of Imperial Starfire. So, yeah, Laval d'Aigle, it was, which is my mangling of the French pronunciation. I hope the rules are in English, is all I can say. So I think we got a little bit of time here, so I think we're going to get a tiny bit more. There we go. So once again, Auchentoshan American Oak, strong and vibrant. First and second fill bourbon casks. So, and you can, I don't know how well you can see the color. I'm going to guess and say there's probably a little bit of caramel color in it. It's super groggy. So, Flight of the Eagle is super groggy. I kind of want it for reference more than anything else. And I've got a no real desire to run it as such. Yeah, I am only about 6 hours from Gettysburg. That's absolutely true. ID Jester asked if I do the coin games. I haven't played one in a while, but yeah, I'll play coin games. Distant Worlds 2, that looks pretty cool. Say all the money I saved not buying Elden Ring, I can spend on that instead. I hope assuming it comes out on Steam. If not, I'm not buying it through Matrix. I'll buy it through Steam. Correct me if this is in... isn't the Antietam battlefield a little more pristine than the Gettysburg battlefield? Parts of which have been turned into housing now? Correct me if that's wrong. This stuff's pretty good, by the way. Not terribly expensive. Another, pretty good introductory malt. And if you don't like peat, the smokiness of a lot of scotch, this pretty much is completely has no smoke at all. Rob Johnson. So sometimes you don't get a Steam key, though. That's the problem. And I don't want to have to run the launcher through Matrix. So War in the Pacific, not available on Steam. Gotta run it. Gotta download it from Matrix. Run it through there. I like Steam to manage all that stuff for me. Byron Salahor says Napoleonic Skirmish game from Dragon Magazine is issue number 41. So yeah, very interesting. Thanks for that. I can look at that. I'm one of the people that actually bought the Dragon Magazine PDF archive when that became available. There was like a junk-ass PDF reader on the disc that you immediately threw away and just used your own PDF reader. So, the Cal Seeley Now I'm gonna stop and wonder about what the name of the channel is. Hold on a second, and I'll tell you what the Wargame Ramble it's called now, which is a channel that's been around forever. He does really good stuff. He does ramble a bit, but not not to the extent of Callendale or anything. So that is a channel I recommend. I am actually going to do, I think, a recommended channels list, which I will probably put on a shared drive and link it in the video description or something like that. I am working on that. So, which will include all of the channels of the week, as well as some other channels that maybe don't get as much attention as they deserve. Oh, and I also picked up about 12 issues of the General that were just for sale at Winterfest as well. I had like 2 issues of the General. I had more back in the day, and I don't know what happened to the loose ones, but most of the ones I have are mostly ASL stuff. Dan Webb says he loves Smoky, which is awesome. I like the Smoky scotches as well. Doug Sunset said when he went to the Origins in Philly, they spent a night at the Battlefield Bed and Breakfast at Gettysburg. If that was 95, I was at that Origins, actually. Ken X asks, could I put all the recommended channels on the channel tab in YouTube? I don't think I can. I don't think I can. Maybe I can. I'll have to look at that. That's possible. So so Winterfest, and even approaching Winterfest, kind of put the hold on the actual video production. I'm shooting for March at this point for the OCS tutorial series. First 2 episodes are fully scripted. I just got to, and the first one is about half filmed. I'm working on slides. I'm still working on slides, and that's gone slower than I had hoped. I'm knocking stuff over here. Dan Webb says put recommended channels on the Patreon. That's possible, but I don't want to put that behind a Patreon either. So if I can do recommended channels, then I will totally do that on the channels tab. That's a really good idea that is not something I've explored at all. I'm really reluctant, generally speaking, to do Patreon exclusive content because, it's effort to make the content and I want everybody to get to see it. So I've done a few like Patreon channel updates and stuff like that. I haven't really done that much Patreon stuff. On the other hand, the patrons did get to watch the outtakes video. So that, which I thought was funny. So that's a thing. Yeah, I don't even know how to do that. We'll have to figure it out. Your channel, my channel. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure that out later on. GenCast 33. I haven't played all the OSG games. My favorite though is Napoleon's Last Gamble, which is the Gettysburg, which is the Waterloo campaign. But that's not why I like it the best. The reason why I like it the best is because if you play the campaign, it's one contiguous map area, and you can. I have not had a chance to play Admiral's War either. And you can, there's 2 expansions for that extend that play area even more. So what that means is that the campaign has a real operational feel, which is not the case for all of the campaigns. So Like Napoleon against Russia, there's hundreds of miles between some of those battles, right? There's no way to make those fit on one contiguous map. But in the case of Napoleon's Last Gamble, they're all in that little space in Belgium. So you can actually do that. And that's actually why I like Napoleon's Last Gamble the best. Because it represents a really complete package of Waterloo campaign of the 100 Days type of stuff. Now, I have played Victory in the Pacific, which is part of Admiral's War, and it's a very good game. I haven't played War at Sea, which is the Atlantic War part. Nordic Maelstrom asks about Napoleonic-era games that deal with the 1809 Danube campaign. So one of those is, in fact... is this it? Yes, The Last Success. So this is out of print, unfortunately. This is, Abensberg, Eckmühl, Espernessling, which is a fascinating battle. It's one of my favorites. And Wagram, which is a huge battle. If you want I don't have it here, but the operational treatment of this is the game 1809 from Victory Games. Another Kevin Zucker design. It's the Campaigns of Napoleon system. It does, however, have kind of a large footprint. It's like the Danube Valley, right? So it's 3 maps, and kind of 2.5, but really 3 maps laid end to end. So it's a really long, skinny map. So if that represents a footprint problem for you, I would totally understand. Hexasim's Napoleonic games, the Eagles of France series, are really good. But there's only 4 battles available. There's Waterloo, Ligny, Quatre Bras, and Austerlitz. And they aren't exactly blowing the doors off, getting more of them out. They are going to reprint Waterloo, apparently. They are nice games, though, and I do recommend them. Peter Bergs, when did they stop putting the cards in the Napoleonic games? The last one that had the cards was Napoleon's Wheel, which was last year's or the year before's. Nordic Maelstrom, that is OSG, the Operational Studies Group. So the Alamo is an interesting situation. I mean, it's interesting history, but I don't think it's a very good topic for a horror game. So they went to a universal card deck, so the card decks are the same now in every game, and you just need the one. But if you bought Napoleon's Wheel, then you have the universal card deck. That Napoleon's Wheel has the universal deck in it. So Brian Salahor mentions that the Dragon article was published in 1980, 1 year before the first Sharp book. Rifle Dodd was the only fictional book for inspiration. That's interesting. William Aarons does mention the American Battlefields Trust, but they're swimming against the tide on that, right? I mean, they're fighting just time. They have, they are limited in, how much money they have too. So they are a charitable organization that's worth your time if you want to donate to that. So I was not historically much of a Napoleonic guy. But it's another one of those things that when I started to become interested in wargaming again in about 2011 or 12, say, it was specifically Napoleonics that got me back interested, even though I then ended up saying, well, I guess I'm playing ASL because that's the only thing anybody's playing, which is nonsense. I was wrong about that. But that's what it looked like at the time. So Napoleonics is a fascinating period. It's not World War II, right? You don't have an unlimited supply of games to buy like you do in World War II. John Keyport's, what's my suggested entry in OSG's library? So that's going to depend on, if you have a specific battle that you're interested in, then let me know, because then maybe I can make a better recommendation. But right now, I'm recommending Napoleon's Last Gamble, assuming it is still available, and I think it is, because it's got a mix of battles plus a big campaign that's played on one contiguous map. Even if you don't have the expansions, you can still play the campaign, and it's still really good. Quatre Bras is a pretty small battle. But even like the bigger battles are not that hard to play. It's just a little easier to get started when you have fewer pieces to worry about. One game that has a lot of small battles is Napoleon in Spain. Napoleon invades Spain. This guy right here. This is from, I think, last year. And this is, these are pretty small, mostly pretty small battles. So this I think, no, I started with, the first one I played was actually out of Napoleon's Quagmire, which also has small battles too. One that doesn't have particularly small battles is like Napoleon against Russia. Those battles are all huge. Napoleon at Leipzig actually has some small scenarios. I am also particularly interested in that 1809 Danube campaign. So it is actually a fascinating campaign. The 1809 from Victory Games is obviously out of print, but it doesn't go for a ton of money. The only operational campaigns of Napoleon series that is currently available is Highway to the Kremlin 2, which I do have, which is not on the shelf because it's not part of that series. Leipzig has a smaller battle in it too. I forget what smaller battle. Jena Auerstadt. Well, Jena Auerstadt's a really cool battle too, but it was in The Coming Storm, which is one that was like out of print and very hard to get, and I had to pay quite a bit to get it, as I recall. Also, the map art style is not an exact match for the rest of the series. It's not radically different, but setting them side by side, you can actually tell. But you can. There's kind of a lot of stuff in here, right? So you get a lot in these games. Fisme, I don't know how you pronounce that. That is the introductory game. But frankly, for what they cost, I would just buy one of the whole boxes. And that way you're ready to go if you want to play more battles, right? Or a campaign. Jason LaRiviere mentions the Ridley Scott Napoleon movie that, remember, Stanley Kubrick was supposed to make a Napoleon movie too, and that ended up not happening. So, themes. Stigler says themes. That could be, I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. Another thing, so I find it interesting to like pair the tactical games or grand tactical games with the operational games. So you can take, for example, I think I have these in chronological order, yeah. You could take La Patrie en Danger and pair it with Napoleon at Bay, whatever edition of Napoleon at Bay you have, whether that's the OSG version or whether it's the ugly Avalon Hill one. So this is the battles. Napoleon at Bay is the campaign. So it's very interesting to do that. That's particularly why I have the 1809 from Victory Games. And Napoleon Retreats is also part of that 1814 campaign in France, too. So, Tom Borman, thanks for stopping by. Oh, we're running out of time. So, let's move toward wrapping up. So, what's coming up this week? Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, me and Dan will be talking about Gettysburg. Tomorrow, there will also be a Kickstarter unboxing released at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That is the One Ring RPG. It's out of reach, or I'd have flashed it on this show. I've really just started looking at the rules. It's the same system as the last edition. It looks really nice. I mean, the presentation is absolutely gorgeous. Somebody should make a movie about Castle Itter, actually. Talk to David Thompson. He can do the screenplay. On Thursday, we have an unboxing, which is Commands and Colors Napoleonics, actually. The Generals, Marshals, and Tacticians expansion. So that's interesting. So videos are queued up for the week. My voice feels a little bit rough here tonight, but I think we had a lot of good discussion Looks like we had about 132 as the top number, which is a little low, but not too low. So we're doing okay now that we don't have massive buffering problems. I think what I'm going to try next time is actually running it off my phone hotspot. I did that for uploading videos, and I ate all the data. I think if I don't do the video uploading, I'll be able to live stream off of it, and I'll look into getting more capacity for hotspot. So for next year, because it's a month, it's like a monthly cap. So, and there are some technical changes that I can make on the OBS side that will, I think, help me to mitigate the amount of data that's moving upstream. So I think that is a show for tonight. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to check out the other videos. Don't forget to check out the 2 after-action reports that we did at Winterfest, one for Ostfront and one for Flat Top. Fantastic. I forgot to really talk about that. That was a fantastic time. Peter Bergs is responding to Tony Mammal. OSG's Campaigns of Napoleon system is not very similar to GCACW. I think there's room in there to take inspiration from GCACW, but Campaigns of Napoleon considerably predates GCACW. The Kubrick Napoleon project was its own thing. Barry Lyndon is based on the Thackeray book. That's a great movie, by the way. Highly recommended to check out Barry Lyndon if you haven't seen it. It's a gorgeous movie. I have more subs than Gross Jew. That's screwed up. I didn't think so. I'll okay, great. There's yes. So Wargaming. We're going to be talking about Wargaming at Origins this year, but that's not until June or July. So I'm not going to be talking about it much right now. We're going to be in the Wargaming area of the big convention hall. Okay. We're going to run a Europa game. We'll be happy to teach people. It's going to be the kind of thing that people can drop in and out of, at their leisure. So we got to get with Brant to get the actual event on the books for that. But we're going to absolutely be running that the whole time. So that's at least Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I think is the plan. Those are the full days. We'll pack it up on Sunday. We'll set it up on Wednesday. So that is the plan. Flat Top's a fabulous game. Totally play that. It's a shit game, Solitaire, though. I will admit that Flat Top is not at its best played Solitaire. I must confess. All right, guys, we are it for this evening. So I would like to thank everybody for stopping by. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please don't forget to support the channel with the Patreon and the merch store and all that jazz. The shirts are great. Please buy shirts. They're lovely. I would like to thank everybody for stopping by, for everybody's continued